Hey YouTube, hey viewers, and welcome back to yet another episode of creating our pretty cool API social media network in Laravel. So we've done quite a lot. We've covered a lot of topics, a lot of basic operation within inside Laravel, from creating controllers to routes and then doing some form requests. This is going to be the last part of that basic series of getting set up before we start building our social media application, because we're going to need one more package that's going to help us throughout this tutorial. And that's all to do with authentication. Now, authentication is how we're going to save our passwords, send out tokens, and we always want to make sure this is as secure as we can get it, because obviously we're storing people's passwords and things that are very relevant to that user. And we also want to make sure that our system is very secure, so that way people can't just like brute force it or just try and work out people's passwords and etc. So we need to install a package that's going to help us do that inside Laravel. I mean, there's nothing stopping us from using the user table that we have inside our Hardy application. So here, where we've got our user table, we did have a password field here. We could quite easily just hash it and then store the password here. But there are different ways how we could do this, and we could make it just a little bit more secure. Now, Laravel has this cool thing. So if we just open here, or don't forget, we can join now, by the way, this is why this is here. But if you open up the Laravel documentation, remember, links are down below for everything that I do. So if you have a look down at the bottom, everything is there. You'll notice that if you look at the Laravel documentation, the version number, which is 7, which we are using, remember, depending on whichever version, please make sure you change your docs to that. And we're going to be using this thing called Passport. We are going to be looking at a few of these actually, which are of interest, but for now we're going to be looking at Passport in this particular instance. And basically, if we just have a look at this introduction, it's basically just saying an authentication, but it's more for our API stuff. And it's giving us OAuth 2. Again, you can have a read about that if you want, but again, this is one of the more secure options that we have. And basically, we need to install this Passport, which is a package, on top of our project. And this is really dead easy to do, and this episode is going to be dead short once we finish with it. So we're just going to go to the installation, and we can see there's a few things that we need to do here. So one, we need to get started, we're going to install Passport via the Composer Package Manager, which we have access to anyways. So we're just going to copy this, and we're going to open up inside our terminal. I'm using cmd or command in this case. Inside our directory, we can always check that by ls/la. You can see this is the directory with all our stuff in it. And basically what we're going to do is, remember, if you've got Composer installed, we can quite easily paste this into our local version. So this is not on the container, this is actually inside our local version. If you don't have Composer installed, just jump into the container, and I'm pretty sure Composer is part of that. So you could run this in there too, as long as you're part of that application. We'll press enter. And basically, this is just going to get us all the stuff we need for Passport to work. It shouldn't take too long, I don't think. I'm hoping it won't take too long. But basically, it's just going to get the package and it's going to install it into our project. And whilst waiting for that, just a reminder, if you have not yet, hit that subscribe button, which will be somewhere over here. We have got a Discord channel now, which is just located right here. So if you want to click on that, you can obviously join the Discord. I'm going to try and help as many of you as I can through that. It's a lot more easy for communication if anyone needs a little bit of assistance. And don't forget, we've got a community, so we can grow a bunch of us that can do the stuff. Obviously, Twitter, if you want to give me a follow there. And obviously, we've got this cool little join button. Now, hopefully, that's now installed. Oh, it's taking a while. My internet must be very slow today. Basically, just getting the package. It's just looking at our composer.json file, which holds all our packages inside. Little update. It's taking a very long time. I'll cut. Oh, there we go. I was about to say I was going to cut back when it was finished, but it shouldn't take too long now. So basically, these are all the little libraries that it's installing. So this Passport needs to have all these dependencies. So you'll see that we've got things to do with Firebase, some JWT stuff, some just some bits and pieces that we're going to need for this, and then it's going to finish off with this PHP JWT, and then we're also going to have the Laravel Passport here. And that's pretty much it. It's now just going to write the composer.json file, it's going to lock it up, and then it's just going to run pretty much a dump autoload. It's going to refresh everything that we have. So if we have a quick look inside our project, whilst that's doing it, remember this is our thing that we last worked on, But if we have a sneak peek at a little something here inside databases and migrations, which is not here yet, but once we get through the installation, something's going to change in this migrations, and just keep an eye on that when we get there. So our next step is to do this PHP artisan migrate. Okay, so let's run that. Now remember, we have to go into our container to do this. So we're going to jump into our container. Remember, we use the Docker execute to get into our container. Just make some space. We're going to go into our directory. So cd Laravel. So this is all our project in here again. And remember, we have the access to all the PHP artisan commands inside here. Notice now we've got this passport, where we didn't have that before because it's obviously a package. We will be creating our own ones like this, but that's for further episodes, so don't worry about that. But remember, we've got the, where are we? Yeah, so remember, we've got the migrate. So remember, this is what we need to do. So we can just run this simple command, this PHP artisan migrate inside here. And you can see that it's just generated a whole bunch of new tables for us. Now this has come from the package, and it's created a few tables. This auth codes, access tokens, refresh tokens, clients, and personal access clients. Now, I'll break them down when we start moving into the user stuff. So when we start creating our users and why do we need this. But if we give our database a refresh, you'll notice we have all these extra new tables now. Sorry, I was doing some work before. And you can see that we've got the same ones that we had with failed jobs and migrations, but now we have all these new ones. This OAuth access tokens, which funny enough has a user ID here. So you can see we're going to be using a user ID, and we're going to save some information. Some authentication codes, maybe for, I don't know, maybe we want to use that for something. I'm just keeping this all secret for now. OAuth clients, again, we've got a user ID and some stuff in here. Personal access clients, this we're probably going to fill in shortly. And the OAuth refresh tokens, this is quite interesting because this is what happens when we need to refresh a user's login into the system. So a lot of data will be put into this table. So you can see it's a big change from just this little user table where we had a password and remember token. We've now got a whole bunch of other set of tables that's going to hold data about our user. And this makes it just a little bit more safer for our user that we have all these options. So what does Laravel tell us to do next? So it says, okay, once we've done this, we need to run this command, this PHP artisan passport install. So let's see what this does. So let's go back. We can actually get out of this. We could do it inside, I guess. Let's do it inside. So we're going to run PHP artisan passport install. And we can see it's now created some encryption keys. Now, obviously, you don't want to share this with anybody because these are unique to your project. But these are the secrets for whatever we're doing with our OAuth. Now, this is very important that we don't share this. And I'd imagine this has been saved into our database somewhere. Here we go. So we've got the OAuth client, so access clients and a grant client. This is again going to keep our users as safe as we can. This is going to be all against our user. And if we have a look at the access client, we've now got an access client. This tells us what's actually accessed. So this is just keeping our passport, I'm getting confused, passport and passport. This is keeping all our passwords very, very safe. So we don't need to worry about anything to do with security for our passwords. Obviously, we're not going to store normal passwords, but it keeps it a lot more safer than just your average password. So it next says we need to just update a couple of files that we have inside our application. So we should have this class here called user. Now this can be found in app and user here. And we need to just add a few extra pieces to it. So let's find that within inside our project. So let's jump into our Laravel project. And it says it's an app and user.php. So this user.php is a model. This model pretty much belongs to, remember we made this user table here? It pretty much belongs to that. So these things like fillable, hidden, cast, all this type of stuff I'm going to explain once we get there. But all we're going to change on here is we're going to add an extra bit of a use case. So notice that we have use H8 has API tokens and then notifiable. That's a tongue twister, that one. This time we've only got notable here. So we want to add in has API tokens. So we're going to copy that and we're just going to plug that in. This is saying we're going to use this library of has API tokens. Now you're going to see it's going to say, well, you haven't done anything with me. I don't belong anywhere. I'm just a piece of text. You're using me, but I don't know what to reference. So we need to actually give it a reference to its class. You can see that it's not here at the moment. So if you click on the plus with PHP Storm. So we need to add it in. Now in PHP Storm, it's dead easy. I can press Control and space. That will add it in straight away. If you can't do that, the best idea is to look at the documentation. Have a look where it says Laravel Passport has API tokens, and you can copy this in to there. Just like so. Now, remember, I'm a bit of a neat freak, so I like my stuff being ordered the correct way. It's just how I am. It's how I like it, I guess. That's that set up. And then basically, it's saying next you should call the passport routes method within the boot method of your auth service provider. This will register the routes necessary to issue access tokens and revoke access tokens, clients and personal access tokens. So this is very important because every time a user is going to log into our system, we want to create them a token where they can browse or use our application securely. So we need to add this in because obviously it's very important. So the best way to do this is we're going to go into our auth service provider, which can be found in app and providers. So let's have a look. We're going to go back to app, providers, and we have this auth service provider here. And you can see that we have some policies. This is currently commented out. We need to uncomment it as it looks here. So we're going to just take that out. Just going to uncomment that piece of code. And it told us that we just need to add in this passport routes here in the boot section. So this is saying when the auth service provider boots up of the app, we need to make sure that we register our routes. So these passport routes here. Now again, this is saying I don't have a class. I can do the same again, Control and space, which will allow me to bring up a list of stuff. In this case, I can choose Laravel Passport or anything that has this class of passport in. And we can see here that it wants us to have Laravel Passport. So I'm just going to copy that because sometimes you might not be able to press Control and space. So we're just going to expand this and put it in. Again, we're going to be a neat freak and we're just going to make sure this is all nicely cleaned up. So it's going to basically boot up our passport routes. And if you click into that, you can kind of see a little bit of its logic behind there and different things that we can call, different functions that we can tap into, which is going to be very important for us later on inside the tutorials or when we're creating the social network. Let's just clean this up. I don't like dirty stuff all over the place. We're just going to clean that up a little bit. It then says next we need to do this config auth.php file, and we just need to change a few things. And really the thing it wants us to change is we're not working with web routes. Now remember, in our project, we had the two options for routes, remember? We had API and we have web. We've been using API. And we want to make sure that we're going to tag into this API stuff. So we're going to update this logic here. And basically it's saying all we need to do is we need to go into this config, which is going to hold all our configurations for a majority of things. And inside the auth.php conf, we want to change the driver of our API. So let's have a look. So let's go to config and auth. Let's just make this smaller. Config. And here's our auth.php here. If we open it up, and you'll notice we got some defaults here. So with passwords belong to users, guard web. And if we go a little bit further down, we've got some guards here. And currently our driver for our API is only using a token based auth. Now that's not too bad. I mean, it's still token and we'll be using tokens. But because we wanted that add a bit of security and we got an extra package, we're actually going to use passport as our driver. Now you can make more than one of these. I mean, you could call them whatever and you can call them later on in the tutorial, but we're only going to be using this reference. Maybe later on we might have, we might have one that we would call, I don't know, admin. And this would be from the admin class. And we still want the same driver, But again, we just call it something a little bit different when we call it in the route. So, but for now, we're just going to keep it as in the API as our passport. We go down, we can see that we've got the providers, which is our users. And this is going to be using Eloquent as a driver. So this is our database stuff, so Eloquent. And it's looking at our user class. Again, we don't need to worry about that. That'll be for later episodes. But in this case, we want to make sure that our API is using a driver of passport. And that's pretty much it. I mean, that pretty much sums up everything that we're doing with the installation of passport. And now that's pretty much ready to go with what we're going to do next, which is actually going to start moving into creating our actual social media application. The first thing we're going to look at is our creation of users. So we're going to set up an API route. So we're going to look at in our code base, in our api.php, we're going to start setting up some routes to work with our users. But now in specific instances and depending on time, we might only be able to maybe do a certain segment of the user. But we're going to get to a point where we'll be able to fully set up our user, get them logged in, we'll get a token back, and we can get them logged in, and you can see all the data coming back from that user in the next episode. So I hope to see you in that episode, and I hope you guys are really enjoying this. Don't forget, if you do like it, make sure you hit that like button. If you really, really like it, hit the subscribe button. If you really, 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 really like it, then don't forget to share this with everybody. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. All right, guys. See you guys later. Goodbye.